TV.
Thanks so much, and I certainly appreciate it. And thanks for making some time for us.
No problem.
Can you just say and pronounce your name and spell it just so that we get it right?
Yeah, so just to be clear, my first name is Ruben, and then my two middle initials are J and A, and that's what I go by. And then my last name is McFarland.
Okay, and I believe we have the spelling in the emails that we have then, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And your title is?
So I'm a principal marine biologist for the Division of Marine Fisheries.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this discovery that has a lot of people talking off the coast there. So it's a Mola, is that what it's called?
Yeah, so the Mola, or commonly known as the ocean sunfish, is the animal that we encountered last week. So not like a rare visitor to our waters, but definitely rare in the sense that it's only in the summertime. Generally only see them in singles or maybe in pairs. And this one was really close to basically the shore, and then essentially ran into our boat while it was eating some jellyfish.
Wow. And what does Mola mean?
So I actually had to look this up. I believe it's Latin, and it's something related to a grindstone. So if you can imagine kind of like a disc-shaped stone like we see all over New England. Basically, when they lay on their side, they just like a big gray disc in the water. And that's kind of a common behavior for them when they're seen by people, because they're usually resting at the surface after taking a deep dive. And it's theorized for various reasons, potentially warming up their body before their next dive down to a couple of 1,000 feet, or potentially allowing seabirds to eat parasites off their bodies.
Oh, wow.
So they kind of they look a little bit silly, and they just kind of flop on their sides. That's typical of the way most people encounter them when they're on a boat, or even the Block Island ferry. People see them from the ferry.
Oh, they do. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, when you say that you only really see them in the summertime, why is it? Do they go somewhere, or do they?
So they have a pretty tight thermal tolerance, so they like relatively warm water. And so if they stray too much further than the Gulf of Maine, they tend to get cold shocked, and they don't do really well. So in the summer, as our warm waters heat up, or coastal waters heat up, they tend to come in. We also have a ton of food around here that they like to eat, like ctenophores or comb jellies, other jellyfish. They eat Portuguese men of war, and other small fish and invertebrates. So
and where did it, and then as the water gets colder, they're heading down south, right? Is that right?
I would assume. I'm not super familiar with their migration patterns, but I would imagine they're probably following the North Atlantic drift out and then taking some sort of like circle route around and back down towards the Southern Atlantic, where the water is a little bit more moderate.
Yeah. When I saw that last night on the video, I was taken back with the size of it. I figured it looked very big, but I couldn't figure out, I didn't have no context on it. Can you talk to us about how big that was and how big they can be?
Yeah. So that one probably was about 6 or 7 foot from tip to tip.
Wow.
It doesn't really have a tail. So between the fins, and my guess, and again, I'm not a Mola expert, I think that was somewhere around 300, probably a little bit more. I think that could be conservative. 300 pounds, pardon me.
Yeah.
So they are, they're kind of interesting in that I looked up like the max size, because I was very curious myself. And I found reports anywhere from about 2,000 pounds to 5,000 pounds. So I think it's safe to say they get really massive,
wow.
eating a really low calorie diet of animals that don't really have a lot of nutritional value, like jellyfish and whatnot.
Do they have you seen them? Do they get longer or larger than 6 feet? Or
oh, absolutely, yeah. This guy, he was definitely a small one. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, some people would see that in the water, right, and be like, "Whoa, what is that?"
Yeah, absolutely. And when I saw the fin at the back of the boat, for a minute you kind of go through dark thoughts, and then I realized the shape of the fin and what it was doing, and I could see kind of its funny face. And that's what I asked one of my colleagues for the GoPro, and then I started, taking a swim and following it for a minute. So.
Yeah, that was great video that you got. Yeah. So when you say you first saw it, you think dark thoughts. They were sometimes mistaken for obviously sharks.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really typical because of the way their dorsal fin sticks up, and just sort of their MO moving through the water. It looks very sharky. I think for people like me and in my work, I saw the fin and was like, okay, it could be a basking shark. These are like split second thoughts, and then realizing kind of what it was doing, I was like, oh no, it's a mola mola. It's
Wow, that's
just kind of a
interesting. What are their traits, or if you will, their personalities? I know sometimes when I talk to marine biologists, they seem to know, a little bit about them that make it interesting. You mentioned how they like to lay on their side and what their diet consists of, but anything, I mean, they look almost like playful.
Yeah, and I think that's our like anthropomorphizing, that really funny or silly looking appearance. I think what's interesting about them is that they're absolutely capable of high speed swimming and getting away from you. They move those fins in this really interesting way that gives them a lot of speed. I honestly don't know much about the behavior. I jumped in the water in the Pacific once, in the Santa Barbara Channel, and I actually got around a school of them, and they were quite small. They were only about 50 to 80 pounds each. And it blew my mind that they would school together. I didn't know that was even a thing. So I feel pretty lucky. I've had a couple of experiences in the water with mola molas,
Yeah, and
on
and
this
and
coast.
when if someone was swimming in the water, maybe jumping off their boat, obviously like you did, but after the fact, would they encounter them? Would they be friendly, or will they keep their
Oh,
distance?
absolutely. I mean, anytime you jump in the water with a marine creature, like be careful, don't touch, keep your distance. But for mola molas, I think you're probably relatively safe. The danger with them would probably be just getting maybe smacked by one of the fins if they got agitated, or potentially like crushed between the fish in your boat, just because they have quite a bit of mass. But for the most part, there's probably not too many safer critters to jump in the water. To be
Yeah.
clear, I don't want to encourage anyone to just jump off their boat into the water to chase sea life. Like, we're
Right.
not in
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
business of
I
harassment.
I guess I meant
Yeah.
like how close could they get to shore if you're swimming at a beach, or you're
Oh,
or you're snorkeling, is
yep.
this something that you'd look behind you and he'd be like, hey, it's me, a mola mola, or would
I
they
think,
be?
yeah, I think that's probably pretty rare. I mean, we were rather close to shore, for
Yeah.
that encounter, and I'm talking like 10 to 20 yards, if that, and that's the closest I've ever seen them to the beach.
So what in
So
that beach was what you were in
we,
New
yeah, we were off the mansions in Newport, so the
right.
closest beach would have been Gooseberry.
Okay. Now you know obviously that there was a reported but not confirmed shark sighting. What is it, on Easton's Beach or Third Beach, I believe, last week? Could that be something that would have been mistaken, possibly, or is it? It's obviously hard to pinpoint exactly, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be really honest, I had not heard about that.
Okay, that's fine.
I
That's
think I'm a
fair.
little behind the news cycle.
It's all
But
right.
yeah, there's always a chance you see that dorsal fin and people, jump to the conclusion that it's a shark.
Yeah.
And if the lifeguard saw it and they said get out of the water, like that's great and can
Yeah, I
certainly be
just wasn't.
chased.
It wasn't confirmed. So when you said that in the proximity to Newport, I just thought that was kind of interesting. But boy, they are interesting looking fish. It's got a lot of hits on our website today.
Yeah, it's blown my mind. I got out of the water, showed the video to my colleagues. We were all stoked. And then I got back in the office, and one of them mentioned, oh, we should send that to communications. And so they did. But yeah, I've been really surprised in it. It's a reminder how lucky we are to live in Rhode Island, near that kind of wilderness, that these animals kind of show up and
Mm,
appear and grace us with their presence. So I think, if there's a message here, it's the ocean is cool. Let's take care of it. Like,
that's true.
weird stuff happens, and if you're in the right place at the right time, you get lucky.
Yeah, really, exactly. That's incredible.
Super,
And
really profound. Yeah.
no. I agree with you. I agree with you. You appreciate it. Especially when you see something like that. So yeah, anytime you see something interesting, send it to communications, because we love to show our viewers, because our viewers love that stuff. Because it's not the typical news cycle stuff.
Yeah, and
So
hopefully, yeah, in an age of negative news cycles, man, if that made some people laugh, at how silly that fish looks, then we're winning.
That's great. Well, thank you. It's nice to meet you, at least virtually, hopefully one day in person, but I appreciate your time. And yeah, anytime you see something, send it to communications.
Thanks. I appreciate it too.
All right. Be good. I'll talk to you soon, hopefully. All right. Take care.